I am about to tell you something many people will not believe, but I lived it. There were houses we could enter easily, homes where fear lived, where anger stayed, where darkness welcomed us. But there were also houses where we stood outside like beggars, powerless. Not because of walls, not because of locks, but because of a prayer, a simple psalm whispered before sleep. My name is Amandlovo. I am from Durban, South Africa. And for many years, I was a witch. I did not start like that. No child dreams of becoming darkness. But pain has a way of opening doors you should never touch. I was initiated when I was 19. They told me it would give me power, respect, protection. But what they did not tell me was that I would lose my soul. We operated at night. When the world was quiet, that is when we moved. I remember the first house I entered. A young couple, newly married, happy, too happy. That happiness, it irritates darkness. We were sent to break their peace. I stood beside their bed and whispered confusion into their spirits. Within weeks, they started fighting. Within months, they separated. That was my job. Destroy peace. I attacked businessmen. I caused sickness in children. I brought strange dreams into people's lives. Sometimes, we didn't even need to touch them. Just entering their home was enough. But then, there were those houses. I will never forget one family. A man, his wife, and 3 children. We were sent many times. Many times. But every time we got close, something blocked us. Not physically, spiritually. The first night, we approached their gate, and I felt heat. Not fire like you know it, but something that burns your spirit. We stepped back. The others said, "Try again." We tried, but something was surrounding that house. Light. And then we heard it. A voice inside, the Father. Calm. Not shouting. Not afraid. He was praying. At first, we laughed. Because many people pray, but their prayers don't reach anywhere. But this one was different. He said words slowly. Whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High. The moment he said that, we froze. It was like chains wrapped around us. He shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I could not move. One of us screamed. Another one fell. I had never seen that before. We were not fighting angels. There was no thunder. No lightning. Just words. Simple words. But they carried power. We ran that night. We came back again. Different day. Different time. We thought maybe it was just coincidence. But again, before they slept, the man gathered his family. And he prayed the same psalm. That was when I realized. It was not just prayer. It was something we feared deeply. Because every time that psalm was spoken, something stood at the door. Something we could not cross. Let me tell you the truth many will not say. There are codes in the spiritual world. Words that open doors. And words that close them. That psalm was a closing code. After that, I started noticing patterns. Homes without prayer were easy. Homes with fear were open doors. But homes where this psalm was spoken with faith. We avoided them. Not because we wanted to, but because we had no choice. I remember one night. I disobeyed. I said, "Tonight, I will enter that house no matter what." I wanted to prove I was strong. I moved closer than ever before. I reached the window. And then, I saw something I will never forget. Not a person. Not a shadow. But a presence. Standing. Watching. Waiting. I cannot explain it fully, but I knew, if I took one more step, I would not return. That was the first time I felt fear, real fear. Not fear of humans. Fear of God. That night, I could not sleep. For the first time in years, I questioned everything. Why are we afraid of simple words? Why does that family have protection, while others don't? What is different about them? And slowly, guilt started growing inside me. Faces of people I had harmed began to appear in my dreams. The couple I separated. The child who fell sick. The pastor we tried to silence. I began to hate what I had become. But leaving is not easy. Because once you are in, they don't let you go. One night, during a gathering, I asked about that psalm. They became angry. One of the elders looked at me and said, "Never mention those words again." That was when I knew. There was something greater than what we were doing. Something we could not fight. Something we could not understand. And something that was calling me out. I did not leave immediately. It took time. Fear. Pain. Running. Crying. But that psalm stayed in my mind. Over and over again. Until one day, I whispered it myself. Quietly. Afraid. Not even sure if it would work for someone like me. And that was when everything started to change. But what happened the night I tried to leave, and what they did to stop me, that is a story I have never told anyone before. And I don't know if I'm ready to say it yet. The night I tried to leave, everything changed. I didn't tell anyone. Not the group. Not even the woman who initiated me. I knew if they sensed it, they would stop me before I even tried. That evening felt different. The air was heavy, like something was watching me closely. My heart was beating so fast. I could hear it in my ears. I locked my door. I switched off the light. And for the first time in my life, I knelt down. I didn't know how to pray like Christians do. I didn't have perfect words. My voice was shaking. But I remembered the psalm. The same one that stopped us. The same one that protected that family. I whispered, "Whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High." Immediately, something shifted. I felt it. Not outside. Inside me. Like something was being pulled, something was resisting. I continued. "He shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Suddenly, I heard a sound. A knock. Slow. Heavy. At my door. My heart almost stopped. No one visits at that hour. Then I heard a voice. Soft, but not human. "Avow, open the door." I froze. I knew that voice. It was one of them. But it didn't sound normal. It sounded stretched, like something wearing a human voice. I didn't answer. Instead, I continued the psalm. "I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress." The knock became louder. Bang. 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 "Ahow, you think words can save you?" I started shaking. Tears were running down my face. But I refused to stop. "Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler." Suddenly, the door handle began to turn. Slowly. Creaking. But I had locked it. I watched it move, on its own. That was when fear tried to silence me. A voice inside my head said, "Stop, or you will die." But another voice, quiet but strong, said, "Continue." So I continued. "He shall cover you with His feathers." The moment I said that, everything went silent. Completely silent. The knocking stopped. The handle stopped moving. Even the air in the room felt still. I didn't stop. I finished it. Every word. Even the parts one barely remembered. I forced them out. When I reached the end, I collapsed on the floor. Crying. Breathing heavily. But something was different. For the first time in years, my room felt clean. Light. Like a burden had lifted. But I didn't know. That was just the beginning. Because the next night, they didn't knock. They came inside. I woke up suddenly around midnight. I didn't hear anything. But I felt it. Presence. More than one. My body was heavy. I couldn't move properly. And then, I saw them. 3 figures. Standing in the corner of my room. Not fully human. Not fully shadow. Watching me. One stepped forward. "Ahow, you have spoken the forbidden words." My throat went dry. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Another one said, "You think that psalm can protect you forever." They laughed. But it was not normal laughter. It sounded broken, angry. I remembered what I did the previous night. So even though my voice was weak, I started again. "Whoever dwells in the secret place." Before I could finish, one of them rushed toward me. Fast. Too fast. I closed my eyes. And shouted, "Of the Most High." Something hit the ground. Hard. I opened my eyes. The one that rushed me was on the floor, struggling, like something invisible was holding it down. The others stepped back, confused, angry. That was when I understood. It was not just the full psalm. Even the beginning carried power, but only when spoken with faith. They tried again. This time, all of them moved at once. The room became cold. I felt pressure on my chest, like something was trying to crush me. I couldn't breathe. Tears filled my eyes. I thought, this is the end. But deep inside me, that same quiet voice spoke again. Don't stop. So with the little strength I had left, I said it again. Slowly, painfully, line by line. And with every word, they weakened. I saw it. Their movements slowed. Their voices became faint. Until finally, they disappeared. Just like that. Gone. From that night, everything changed. They didn't stop coming. But they could not touch me the same way again. And I began to understand something deeper. That psalm was not just protection before sleep. It was a weapon, a boundary, a declaration, a code we could never break. And the truth is, there were many of us who secretly feared people who prayed it every night. We would mark houses. We would report back. This one, avoid. But there was something else I discovered. Something even more dangerous. Because not everyone who says that psalm is protected. And the reason why is something I learned the hard way. The night I almost lost my life again, even after praying it. Because not everyone who says that psalm is protected. I didn't understand that at first. After those encounters, I became bold. Too bold. Every night, I would pray it. Sometimes fast. Sometimes without even thinking. Just repeating the words like a routine. And for some days, nothing happened. No shadows. No attacks. No voices. I started to relax. I thought, that's it. I'm free. But in the spiritual world, silence does not always mean victory. Sometimes, it means they are watching, waiting, learning your pattern. One night, I was very tired. I had spent the whole day worrying. Fear was still inside me, even though I was trying to be strong. So when it was time to sleep, I rushed. I didn't kneel. I didn't focus. I just laid on my bed and whispered the psalm quickly, like someone reading something they don't understand. My mind was not there. My heart was not there. Only my mouth was speaking. And that night, they came back. I woke up around 2 a.m. This time, it was worse. The room felt heavier than ever before. It was hard to breathe. I tried to sit up, but I couldn't. Then I heard it. Clapping. Slow, steady, mocking. Clap. 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 From the corner of my room. Aha, now you are just saying words. My blood ran cold. It was the same voice. But this time, it sounded stronger. Closer. I forced my eyes open. And what I saw made my body go numb. There were more of them. Not 3. Not 4. Many. Filling the room. Some standing. Some crawling. Some just watching. One of them moved closer to my bed. You think it is the psalm? It said. No, it is not the words. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would explode. Another voice spoke from behind me. It is who listens to the words. Tears started running down my face. Because in that moment, I understood. I had said the psalm. But I didn't connect to the one behind it. And they knew. They always know. One of them climbed onto the bed. I felt the weight. Cold. Heavy. It pressed my chest down. I couldn't breathe. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. Then suddenly, I heard something shocking. They started repeating the psalm. Yes. They said it. Mocking it. Twisting it. Laughing as they spoke. That broke me. I thought, if even they can say it, then what is my hope? Fear entered me deeply. Stronger than before. I felt like I was sinking. Like I was about to disappear. But then, something small happened. Very small. But powerful. A memory. That family. The man. the way he prayed. Slow, calm, certain, not afraid. He didn't rush. He believed. And in that moment, I realized something. It was not just the psalm. It was the place. The secret place. That is what I was missing. With the little strength left in me, I closed my eyes. And instead of rushing, I spoke differently. Not fast. Not afraid. But from deep inside me. Whoever dwells. My voice was weak. But real. In the secret place. The one on my chest post. Of the Most High. Suddenly, the room reacted. Not loudly. Not violently. But like something had entered. Something they did not expect. The pressure reduced, just a little. I continued. Slowly. Carefully. Holding every word like my life depended on it. Because it did. He shall abide. The one on top of me shifted. Uncomfortable. Under the shadow. A sound came from the corner. A low growl. Of the Almighty. This time, they didn't laugh. They stepped back. Not fully. But enough for me to breathe. I took a deep breath. And continued. Now stronger. Now connected. Now desperate, but focused. As I kept going, something began to happen again. The same thing I experienced that first night. But stronger. The air in the room changed. Warm. Heavy, but not in a bad way. Like a presence had filled the space. The figures started moving back. Slowly. Carefully. Watching me. Angry. But cautious. And then, something shocking happened. One of them spoke. Not to me. But to the others. She is entering it. The others became restless. Stop her. They rushed forward again. But this time, I didn't panic. I didn't rush. I kept speaking. Line by line. Word by word. And something invisible stood between us. I couldn't see it clearly. But I could feel it. A boundary. A line. They tried to cross it. But they couldn't. Just like that family I used to watch. Now, I was inside. Protected. That night, I learned the truth. The psalm is not magic. It is not a shortcut. It is not just something you say before sleep. It is a place you enter. A place many people talk about, but few truly step into. From that moment, everything changed again. They didn't stop coming, but they couldn't come close the same way. And I started noticing something else. Something even more dangerous. Because there were people who thought they were protected, who said that same psalm every night. But something in their lives was still leaving the door open. And we knew it. We always knew it. Because sometimes, even after the psalm is spoken, there are still invitations. And the most dangerous invitation I ever saw was in the life of a pastor who prayed that psalm every single night, yet one night, we were allowed inside. I remember the pastor's house vividly. It was not like the others. Big, beautiful, expensive. You could see the blessing on his life. But there was something different, something that we didn't see at first. We had tried before. Many times. Like all the others, we moved under the cover of night. But every time, we stopped at the gate. That psalm, the same one, whispered in a calm, confident voice by the pastor himself. His family would kneel quietly beside him, the children obedient and peaceful, and the house glowed differently, almost untouchable. We had given up on him. But one night, I made a mistake. I got too proud. I told myself, I know their patterns. I know the rhythm. I can enter. I will show them. I am stronger. And that's when it happened. I remember walking up the driveway. The air was thick, thick like it was holding its breath. I could feel something different. Not fear, but warning. A presence that was unlike any other I had felt. I stepped inside the yard. It was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that presses against your ears. And then I heard it. A soft humming. A voice. Not loud, not shouting, just calm, quiet, repeating the psalm. Whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High. I froze. My heart almost stopped. I could see him in the living room, kneeling. hands on his knees, head bowed. The candles flickered slightly, casting shadows on the walls, but the shadows were different this time. They didn't move freely. They twisted, pulled, almost afraid to touch the light. I whispered to my companions, "We can't." But they ignored me. They were ambitious, hungry. Always hungry. They moved forward. And that's when the room changed. The air felt heavier. My body felt heavy. My legs wouldn't move. And then, I saw it. Figures. Dark figures. Not human. Not completely shadows either. Something in between. And they were circling him. Around the pastor. I expected him to be afraid. But he was calm. Eyes closed. Lips moving silently, faithfully, and with authority. I realized then, this wasn't just a psalm for protection. This was a sword. Every word carried weight. Every word pushed the darkness back. I whispered it to myself. Carefully. Slowly. Trying to mimic him. Whoever dwells in the secret place. And something inside me responded. A warmth I had not felt in years. But that feeling didn't last long. Because suddenly, the shadows turned toward me. They knew I was there. They had always known. One of them came at me, faster than any human could move. I barely dodged. Another one screamed. The sound wasn't human. It was a screech that made my teeth ache. I realized then that they were testing me. Testing if I truly understood the power behind the words. I could feel guilt rise inside me like a tide. All the people I had attacked. The families I had broken. The pastors I had tried to curse. Every single life. Every single tear. It all came back to me in a wave of regret so strong it almost knocked me to my knees. And then the pastor spoke. Not at me. Not to them. But a command that shook the air. In the name of the Most High, leave this house. The shadows froze. I could see them hesitate. I wanted to run. My legs wanted to move. But I couldn't. Something was holding me there, in awe, in terror, and in something I had not felt in years, hope. I whispered again, "He shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." And suddenly, the shadows scattered. Not entirely gone, but weakened. I fell to my knees, shaking, tears streaming down my face. Because for the first time, I understood something profound. It wasn't just the words. It was the faith behind them. The surrender. The trust in a power far greater than anything I had ever known or tried to control. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, thinking, watching, wondering. Because I knew. I had only survived by a thread. And then I realized something even more frightening. Even after all I had seen, even after all I had learned, I did not yet understand the full secret. The psalm was not a shield you could misuse. Not a magic chant. It was a doorway, and some doors should never be entered lightly. The pastor had walked through that door with his family every single night. Fully. Without hesitation. Without fear. I had tried to mimic him, and almost died. I learned that night something I wish I could erase from my memory. There are powers, even we, as witches, do not dare confront, and only a life surrendered to the Most High can truly walk unscathed among them. And yet, the curiosity inside me did not die. Because there were more houses, more pastors, more families, where that psalm was spoken. And I knew, deep down, not all of them were fully protected. Some had cracks. Some had weaknesses. And I began to wonder, what happens when someone prays the psalm with doubt? With fear? Or with selfish intentions? Because I have seen what fear looks like. I have seen what doubt feels like. And I have also seen what happens when the shadow finds a crack, even in a house where the psalm is spoken every night. That's the part they don't tell you. That's the part the world doesn't see. And I have been on both sides of it. The attacker and the almost victim. And now, the question that haunts me every day. What will happen when I encounter the next house, the next family, the next pastor, who prays that psalm? Will I be able to resist? Or will I fall, where even the strongest words fail? Because the secret, the terrifying secret, is that there is always more to the battle than words alone. And not all doors are meant to be opened. But some doors will open anyway. Weeks passed after that night at the pastor's house. I thought I had learned my lesson. I told myself I would stay away from houses where the psalm was spoken with true faith. I told myself I would pray, cautiously, quietly, for my own protection. But something inside me, curiosity, pride, it never left. I heard whispers in the shadows. Stories of a house on the outskirts of Dudban. A family who never missed their night prayers. Every night, without fail, the psalm was spoken. Even the children said it. Even the housemaids, they said it. My companions whispered about it with fear. Do not go there, one said. Even we avoid it, another warned. But my pride, my obsession, it pushed me forward. I told myself, I need to see it. I need to understand it. I need to know why some survive and why some fall. I arrived at the house just after midnight. From the outside, it looked ordinary, clean, peaceful, but I could feel the presence before I even stepped inside. It was like a wall, a barrier I could sense in my chest, in my stomach, in my mind. I knocked lightly, and the door opened before I could even ring the bell. A small girl, maybe 7, stood there. Calm, eyes bright. She looked at me and smiled. Are you here to play? She asked. I swallowed hard. Something was off. Too calm. Too innocent. I stepped inside. And that's when I noticed it. The living room was quiet. Too quiet. No ticking clocks. No hum of the refrigerator. Just air, thick and heavy. And on the wall, a small plaque. Engraved. Words I couldn't fully make out in the dim light. But it radiated something protective. Sacred. I moved closer. And then I heard it. From the bedroom down the hall, soft, confident, deliberate. Whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High. It was not rushed, not whispered, not fearful. It was alive. I froze. The psalm was being spoken with power I had never felt before. My companions behind me whispered in panic. We can't touch it. We can't. But my curiosity had trapped me. I had to see. I had to know. I moved closer to the bedroom door. And that's when I noticed something I wasn't expecting. A shadow. Thin. Long. Crawling along the floor. Moving opposite the light. I thought it was one of us. But no. It was different. Watching. Patient. Waiting. I remembered the pastor's house. The calm. The certainty. The surrender. And then a cold thought hit me. What if this house, this family, is not fully protected? Because even though the psalm was spoken, I could feel a crack. Something small, but there. A hesitation. A doubt. A fear, buried somewhere deep inside the Father. Something the darkness could smell. My heart raced. I could feel the excitement and terror mingling. I slowly peeked into the room. And I saw them. The family. Kneeling together. Heads bowed. Hands folded. Eyes closed. Peaceful, innocent. Perfect. The father's lips moved, slow, deliberate, each word full of faith. But then, I noticed it. His hands, trembling slightly. Just slightly. A flicker of doubt. A crack. I didn't need more. I felt the darkness inside me stir. The old hunger. The old power. The instinct to move in, to strike, to test the crack, to see if it was real. My companions whispered again, frantic now. Don't do it, step back. But I couldn't. I was drawn forward, like a moth to the flame. And then I heard a soft voice, inside my head, quiet, insistent. Do you want to see what happens when faith falters, or when pride walks too close? The hairs on my arms stood up. I looked around. There was no one. But I felt it. Something ancient. Watching. Waiting. Judging. I realized then. I was not just curious. I was about to become a part of the story. And that's when I saw it, moving in the corner of the room. A figure. Not human. Not shadow. Not completely visible. Something old. Malevolent. Patient. smiling, waiting, and it whispered, in a voice so soft I almost didn't hear it. "We've been waiting for you, aha." I froze, because I knew then, this night, this house, this family, would teach me something I had never learned before. Something dangerous. Something terrifying. Something that would test not just my courage, but my soul. And as I stepped closer, one thought consumed me. The figure in the corner, it didn't move like a person. It hovered, twisted. Its eyes, if you could call them eyes, glowed faintly. Watching me, measuring me, judging me. I tried to speak. My mouth barely worked. My throat dry as dust. And then, I heard it. Not with my ears, but inside my head. You think the words protect you, but only the faith behind them does. Show me your faith, am I, or leave your soul. I staggered back. My companions behind me shrank in fear. They had never seen anything like this. Even I, the witch, had never faced such a presence. But then, something inside me stirred. Something I hadn't felt in years. Guilt. Regret. The memories of every life I had broken. Every family I had destroyed. Every pastor I had tried to curse. Every man, woman, and child I had attacked. All of them came back to me, faces in my mind, eyes full of pain. And that's when I realized. The psalm was not just a shield. It was a code. A code that opens doors and closes them. A code that darkness fears, but can also study. Because I had studied it. I had memorized it. I had whispered it in my own defiance, without truly understanding it. The shadow in front of me hissed. You know the words, but you do not know the power behind them. Speak them, truly, from your heart, or be consumed. My hands shook. My body wanted to run, but I couldn't. And then I remembered the first time I had seen the family who was fully protected. The father. Calm. Certain. Fearless. The way he spoke each word slowly, deliberately, with authority. Not just repeating, but living them. I swallowed. My pride burned, but my fear was stronger. Slowly, trembling. I spoke. Whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High. The shadow recoiled slightly. I took a deep breath. He shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The pressure on my chest lessened. My companions gasped. I will say of the Lord. A low growl came from the shadow. He is my refuge and my fortress. The figure paused. Its glowing eyes flickered. I could feel the darkness around me start to crumble, but not fully. Not yet. Then it whispered again. But you do not yet know the secret. Amal. You can recite the psalm, but can you live it? Can you surrender completely? Can you trust the one who dwells in the secret place more than your own strength? I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But something inside me, something I hadn't felt in years, something that used to be buried beneath the weight of darkness, spoke quietly. I want to live. And in that moment, I felt it. The secret code. Not the words themselves. Not the rhythm. Not the repetition. But the heart behind them. The surrender. The trust. The willingness to admit. I cannot do this alone. I repeated the psalm again. Slowly. Carefully. With meaning this time. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall find refuge. And something incredible happened. The shadow, it screamed. Not a human scream, a sound of fury and defeat. It tried to rush me, to push me down, to consume me, but it could not cross the invisible line that now surrounded me. And I realized, this is the truth that even the elders never tell you. The psalm is a code, a key, a weapon. But only when spoken from a surrendered heart. When fear, pride, or doubt enters, it becomes a doorway for darkness. And that's why some families survive. Some pastors are untouchable. Some people fall. The shadow writhed, twisted. Then it spoke again. This is not the end. Amal, you are learning, but there are others. Stronger, older, watching, waiting. The code, the secret, it is not just for protection. It is also a test. And the test is far from over. I staggered back. my body shaking, my heart racing, my soul alive for the first time in years. And even as I stood there, victorious, I knew the truth. The psalm can protect you. The psalm can shield you. The psalm can stop the darkness at your door. But the darkness is patient. It watches. It waits. And even a small crack, even a whisper of doubt, can be enough to let it in. I didn't know it then, but that night, I had only survived the beginning of a much larger battle. The battle that would chase me, test me, haunt me, and almost destroy me completely. Weeks after the encounter with the pastor's house, I heard rumors of another family. A small house on the outskirts of Dudban. They prayed the psalm every night. Even the children knew it. Even the maids repeated it without hesitation. But there was something different about this house. A chill, a warning in the air, something that screamed danger. I went there alone. Curiosity had become an obsession. Pride had become my enemy. I stepped inside. The house smelled of incense and oil. Everything was calm, perfect, innocent, untouched. I reached the living room and froze. The family was kneeling together, heads bowed, hands folded, eyes closed, calm, peaceful. I thought they were untouchable. And then I noticed it. The father, trembling, just slightly, not in fear of God, not in reverence, but in distraction, doubt, a secret he carried in his heart. A crack. That's all I needed. I whispered the words of the psalm, slowly, carefully, from the shadows. Whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High. The father's lips quivered. His mind wandered for just a moment. And then, it happened. The darkness I had carried with me all those years, the power I had learned, the hunger I had nurtured, flowed through that crack. A shadow rose from the floor. Long, thin, malevolent, watching, waiting. It moved toward the father. Fast, too fast. I realized this was the moment I had been avoiding my entire life. The moment when the psalm could fail, if faith faltered. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to close my eyes and hope it was a dream. But something inside me, something I had not felt in years, broke through fear. I spoke. Not just the words, but the truth behind them. He shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The shadow hissed, screeched. It lunged toward me, angered that a former which dared to wield the code against it. I held my ground. Every word from the psalm became real, not just sounds, but shields. Weapons. Light. Power. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. The shadow screamed. Its form twisted. Its eyes, glowing, hungry, ancient, flickered. The father's doubt flickered again, and I saw a chance. I rushed to his side, placed my hands over his shoulders. Focus. Believe, I whispered. And in that moment, the code worked. Not because of me, not because of him, but because God's power flowed through true surrender. The shadow vanished. The air cleared. The family didn't even realize what had happened. They just felt peace. I fell to my knees, shaking, crying, exhausted. I realized then, that night I had changed. I was no longer just a former witch. I was someone who had seen both sides of darkness and survived. But the truth is, the psalm is not magic. It is a doorway, a code, a boundary. And some doors can be opened by doubt, by fear, by pride, even by someone like me, who once walked in darkness. I left that house that night knowing something I cannot forget. The battle is never truly over. The darkness watches. It waits. But for the first time in my life, I understood the power of surrender. And the psalm, the secret code, is not just protection. It is a test. And the question remains, will you step into the secret place, fully, without fear, without doubt, without holding back? Because if you falter, even for a second, the shadows are waiting. And they do not forget.